His mock draft 1.0 yesterday, his first ever mock, and it's a great one. It had quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3, as you might expect. Caleb Williams to the Bears, Jaden Daniels to the Commanders, meaning he jumped Drake Maye, who goes third to the Patriots. If that happens, it would be the fourth time in the common draft era that quarterbacks were selected each of the first 3 picks. The last time it happened was 2021. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Trey Lance. Kind of interesting to reflect on that draft class with a few years of perspective. But Tim, do you agree with the order that Field has these QBs coming off the board, especially that spot where you got Jaden Daniels ahead of Drake Maye?
Yeah. I don't. And, I've been on the record as saying this, and I think I've probably said it for a little while now. Look, I think Drake Maye is the best quarterback in this class. I think, I've been working at ESPN for 15 years, evaluating quarterbacks. I think he's as promising as any quarterback I've seen during that stretch. A good example, this is the season opener against South Carolina. He's getting 0 blitz. He knows it, and you can tell he knows it because he's drifting away from the free runner. He's got a tight end that's not looking for the football, so he pumps it, and then he gets rid of the football again without ever putting his left hand back on the ball. Kind of an insane ability to do that. A lot of people talk about these other guys and their ability to create. Even though he's built like a drop-back passer, that's a left-handed pass completion against Pitt for a touchdown. And as a runner, I think people are going to be blown away when they see him because he's an incredible runner. At his size, to be as elusive as he is not normal. And look, I get it. Like, we're talking about really talented guys at the top of the draft. And for Caleb Williams, look, he has an uncommon calm in the pocket and ability to create on his own. I just really believe that when you kind of go through the checklist of things that you are looking for out of your quarterback, size, athleticism, arm strength, a lot of the intangibles in terms of competitiveness and leadership. Look, there's so much to fall in love with about Drake Maye. I think there's going to be a lot of people that come away thinking he's going to be a way better pro than he was a college player. It's certainly how I feel about it.
Tim, I love that you put that clip in of him just barreling down the sideline because I do think that's a part of his game that not as many people talk about, and it's certainly there, as you illustrated so well. Okay, the Commanders are sitting at that number 2 pick. Listen to what Cliff Kingsbury said. He's the new offensive coordinator there. This is what he said today.
What type of quarterback, like the ideal fit, the characteristics, the traits that you want to work with here in Washington?
The Chiefs quarterback.
That'd help.
No. I do think the game, as you can see, you watch those guys, Brock and him at the end, like when the money's on the table, you got to be able to make some plays with your feet, move around enough to escape a bad play. And it doesn't mean you got to run like Lamar or Kyler Murray, but you better be able to move a little bit and buy yourself some time.
All right, so Marcus, Jaden Daniels can definitely do that. Field has him going number 2 to the Commanders. What do you think of that fit?
I like the fit, and obviously Cliff salivated over the thought of getting Kyler Murray in Arizona.
Yeah.
We saw Kyler Murray play at a high level, but we also saw Kyler Murray struggle at times under Cliff Kingsbury. I think Jaden Daniels is one of those, it's similar to Joe Burrow, right? You explode on the scene this year. You do some things that people didn't really pay attention to. The downfield passing is there. He's got to continue to work like all of these guys on down the field accuracy, decision making. That comes along with being young. But when you start, when Cliff made the statement about we got to have some guys that's going to be able to create when things are broken down around us, 5 can absolutely do that. And we saw him do it time and time again for LSU. He was the offense outside of the receivers, and he has some really good guys to throw to that's going to be drafted high. Malik Neighbors comes to mind. But if you watch Jaden Daniels play this year and you start talking about the ability to play outside of structure and still have creativity enough to push the ball down the field, he is what the NFL is now in this new iteration. And I think it goes back to what Tim is saying as well with all 3 of these guys. I think it's really going to be about your cup of tea, right? Like when you look at these guys, it's going to be a tremendous amount of talent. And obviously Caleb is thought of as the first guy, but we know as the draft creeps closer and closer, all of the stories and things starting to come out about different guys and why they would be the first pick and second pick. Nothing is etched in stone. Caleb Williams is right now decidedly so the first pick overall, but I think as we get closer, some things are going to pop out about these other two guys. That's 2 and 3, whatever order you have them in.
Yeah, the combine's coming up the first couple days of March, too. One thing about Daniels that I think is really important, if you look at the context of last season, the defense for LSU struggled so much. He was on the field so often, and as you said so well, Marcus, was the entirety of their offense with a little bit of help from the receivers. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about a few more picks we saw from Fields Mock Draft 1.0. Quarterback selections at number 12, the Broncos select J.J. McCarthy, the Michigan quarterback. Field sees McCarthy as a fit with the Broncos because he doesn't expect Russell Wilson to be back in Denver next season, which makes sense. In his 2 seasons with the Broncos so far, Wilson ranks 25th in the NFL in QBR, a significant decline from his 10 seasons with the Seahawks when Wilson ranked in the top 10. You know, certainly the relationship, too, with Russell Wilson and the Broncos matters here. Tim, what do you think of J.J. McCarthy to the Broncos at number 12?
Yeah, you know, I was a little bit surprised at how high Field had him. And some of that is, look, the first 3 picks being quarterbacks, you may get people reaching for the next quarterback that could come off the board. And look, I think with McCarthy, there's a lot to like. He's kind of been under the microscope for a long time. He's performed in some very big moments. He physically does a lot of what you would want an NFL quarterback to be able to do. I do think there's going to end up being questions, concerns about his accuracy. And so I think for that, that's probably why I'm a little bit hesitant to see him at 12, just knowing how important it is to be accurate at the next level and how that usually factors into the evaluation process.
Because 2 years ago, the Steelers drafted Kenny Pickett with the 20th overall pick. Hadn't worked out so far. Through his first 2 seasons, Pickett has the same number of interceptions as touchdown passes, and the Steelers have averaged fewer than 17 points per game in his starts. Marcus, do you think Bo Nix is an upgrade over Kenny Pickett?
Boogie, I'm not sure, but let me say this. I did like what I saw when I watched Bo Nix a few times this year. The game against Washington, he played very well under Dan Lanning, and this team was really good. They pushed the ball down the field. His athleticism, I think, is a little bit more than what Kenny Pickett has as well. And Boogie, you remember this. We were at SEC Network, and Bo Nix was at Auburn, and he was awful. Yeah. But he was a young football player. And I give a lot of credence to the maturity that it took for him to become the type of player that we're talking about now with the potential of going in the first round. I think that's a big deal when it comes to seeing guys mature and continue to get better. That lets you know that they've been working on all facets of their game. So as far as being a significant upgrade over Kenny Pickett, I believe he's better. I believe he'll be better suited than Kenny Pickett has shown, but I don't know if it's going to be significant enough in that particular division if you don't go out and try to get somebody more dynamic than both of those guys.
Yeah, credit to Bo Nix for working on his game. And Adam, the Steelers could have other options, right? To Marcus's point. You think they're more likely to go with a quarterback in the draft or maybe look to trade for, I don't know, Justin Fields, sign a free agent? What do you think they do?
Well, listen, Mike Tomlin, the Steelers head coach, Laura, made no secret of the fact that they're going to bring in competition for Kenny Pickett. So if we look at the new offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, he does have a connection and a tie to Ryan Tannehill, who is a free agent. We do know that Mike Tomlin is a big fan of Justin Fields. Many people are. There are going to be options out there. Denver could be moving on from Russell Wilson. Maybe that's an option in Pittsburgh. Certainly one of these veteran options you would figure would be attractive to Pittsburgh. They'll have to go through and decide which one they like most. But I think when you have gotten a guy like Kenny Pickett, who you invested a first-round draft pick in, maybe you want to bring in a veteran to challenge him to see if it could raise his level of play.
Yeah, I think that's a great point by Adam in terms of that. You can think about Kenny Pickett. When he was drafted, he was seen as a ready-made player. He was older. He played a lot of football at Pitt. He wasn't necessarily a project-type player. And so I think whether it's a guy like Bo Nix, another guy that's played a lot of football at the college level, you would think that he's been kind of groomed to be ready. I just don't believe that that's the direction. I think it's more along the lines of, hey, we need someone to come in that could maybe be the starter for us right away, not somebody else that's similar to Pickett in the sense of, look, we know he could play at the college level, but can he do it at this level?
Well, Justin Fields would be perfect, guys, for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think about what you just said, Shefty, with Ryan Tannehill when he left Miami and those really good seasons he had in Tennessee with Derrick Henry, and obviously at the time having A.J. Brown. And you think about the situation that Justin Fields will walk in Pittsburgh with Pickens on the outside and Johnson and Najee Harris and Warren in the backfield. This offensive line and run game came to the forefront for Pittsburgh late in the season. We know defensively they're going to be stout with a superstar like T.J. Watt and on the other side with Highsmith. This team is ready-made. And when you think about Arthur Smith, I go back to that. He used Ryan Tannehill's athleticism. Ryan Tannehill got better under Arthur Smith. And when you think about Justin Fields and the situation he's been in Chicago with instability, the one thing we talk about with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the fact that Mike Tomlin is the head coach, that there is stability. And I love the fact that Arthur Smith is coming off of a head coaching stint. He's also been an offensive coordinator. He's had success as an OC in developing a quarterback to play better than his previous destination. I think it would be beautiful to see Justin Fields in the black and gold.